Hello and welcome back to Only Analog. In today's video we're taking a look at Shanghai's GP3, which they fairly recently released in 220. So obviously this is great news for those seemingly redundant 220 backs for the RB and RZ67 or Bronica systems, for example, but is it really worth it? So to get to grips with this film and to find out a little bit more, I shot 3 rolls, one at box speed, one at 64 ISO and one at 50 ISO. So we're back at some familiar locations today where I like to test film, and as we run through today's video I'm going to talk a little bit more about the emulsion and some of the shots as well. I hope you enjoy. So these first few came out really well. I had a bit of an issue with the first few. I lost a couple of shots from light leaks, which was probably a mistake on my part. Throughout today's video you might see a couple of the shots with a little bit of light leak down the side where I'm an absolute rookie. So 220 film, unlike 120 film, obviously doesn't have any paper backing, making it a lot more susceptible to light leaks when loading and unloading the film. So if you do go out and shoot this film, I'd definitely recommend loading and unloading in a dark environment, and don't do what I did and pop the film out broad daylight. Throughout my time with this film, I also wanted to try some red filters. Now, with the moody sky above the windmill on this particular shot, I stacked my red filter and my graduated ND filter to just bring out the sky a little bit more and create a really moody shot. So far so good. The film's definitely retained the contrast and the details really well. It has lost a little bit of shadow detail with the red filter, but I kind of like the moodiness that it gives. So as I ventured down to my next location, I stopped at this garage that had a load of abandoned cars left to the elements. So I ended up chatting to one of the owners about film photography, and he was nice enough to let me have a look around and take some photos. And he traded some really interesting stories about the rallies that they do across the world in this particular car. It was really nice meeting Barry and of course having the opportunity to shoot this film in a slightly different lighting condition. And of course I couldn't leave without asking for a portrait for my current project that I'm working on. I'm incredibly happy with this shot and it will definitely be going into the portfolio.
Good stuff.
I'll develop these up and I'll get them over to you.
Yeah, great.
Thanks very much. Have a good one. So this second roll was shot at 64 ISO, and I know that seems like a little bit of a strange thing to do, but I do quite often like to overexpose my negatives slightly. And from what I'd seen online, I do feel like Shanghai needs that little extra push. And I just obviously wanted to test a range of ISOs with this film, and it never hurts to really push or pull a little bit. So again here I wanted to try another lower light situation. I took these particular shots at f4 and f5.6 at 1/15 of a second. These two shots have really grown on me, and the emulsion seems to deal with the harsh light and deep shadows really well. So this is the last roll of film that I shot at 50 ISO, and the only roll that I had any slight problem with. Now, as you will see as we go through, there are a lot of tiny scratches on a few of the photos. Now, this only happened towards the end of the roll, and I do think it is slight user error. There's a lot of things at play here, and a lot of things that I can rule out. And the only big differences that I can make between all three rolls is I developed these slightly differently to the two previous ones. So the two previous rolls were in dilution H in Euro HC. And off the top of my head, I can't remember what I developed this particular roll at. But I know I tried something different, and I remember the negatives coming out really thin. It's also the only roll that I use my squeegee on. So take from that what you will. I do think it is slight user error, and obviously there was a lot of usable photos in there, but I just thought it was a good point to mention here. So as I said, they're not horrific, they're still very usable. I could have used Photoshop or AI to get rid of a lot of the scratches, but that is not what we're about here. Obviously, I do use Photoshop to remove any larger hairs or scratches or marks, but for the most part I do like to leave them as out of the scanner as possible. So what's the verdict on this film? Personally, I really enjoyed using it, both the enjoyment of getting 20 shots out of my Pentax 6.7 and the results themselves. And I don't think this is a film stock that should be overlooked. I think in the right hands it can create some really beautiful results. Has some really punchy contrast in the right lighting, and the grain structure is not too prominent either, which is something I look for in a black and white film. It's not too distracting from the shot, but it's definitely there. Obviously, as I said before, anyone with a 220 film back can enjoy using it again. With results like that, I don't really think there's a lot to moan about in terms of quality and price if it means using a seemingly redundant film back again. So a roll of GP3 100 is going to set you back about £12–13. I mean, which isn't too bad when you compare it to the likes of HP5, for example, which is probably about £7 or £8 now, I imagine. So before I went out shooting, I sort of had this idea of quantity over quality. It sort of felt like you're shooting GP3 for the quantity and you'd shoot HP5, for example, for the quality, but I've completely changed my mind on that now. Seeing the results from GP3, still a quality film. It's that sort of question of shooting something that you trust or shooting something new. But GP3 has definitely surprised me. I did get some really nice results, as obviously you've seen in today's video. It might not be for everyone, but my personal preference is, it's pretty spot on. I really like having, the 20 shots in my Pentax 6.7, or was it 30 in my Bronica, for example. It really makes the film go a long way, and you feel like you can get a lot more out of your shooting experience with a particular roll of film. And also going back to that trust part of, shooting something like HP5 or FP4 or T-Max, for example. I'm sure some of you will know that Shanghai have had a bit of a bad rep in the past, but I really feel like in the last couple of years, they've really turned it around. The quality of the film's improved massively, as well as the results, and I feel like they're doing a lot to bring more to the film community. They have also just released a new colour film, which me and Tom have been working on in the sidelines, which will be coming very, very soon. So is it as good as other black and white films? Well, if you're going to look at HP5 or FP4, Kodak XX, Kodak T-Max, for example, they all have their own special characteristics that make them unique. So it's difficult to pin one against the other. One particular film stock it did remind me of, however, in some of the shots was Cinestill Black and White XX. And just for a bit of reference, I'll pop some up on the screen now. My last visit to Cinestill XX, I was really, really impressed with. To compare it to something like that, I think says a lot. Cinestill XX is not cheap, and for the same price or slightly less, you can get a roll of Shanghai GP3 for twice the amount of photos. I think it's a little bit of a no-brainer. This film is available from Nix and Tricks. They do offer a worldwide postal service. We're not affiliated by Nix and Tricks in any way, but they always offer a really great service and extremely fair prices on both film and chemistry. Thank you very much for watching today. I really, really hope you've enjoyed. If you did, please drop a comment. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. If you'd shoot a roll, have you shot a roll? And please remember to give it a like and hit the subscribe button as well. Thank you very much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.